to DSW's Endpoint Assessment for the Level 4 Investment Operations Specialist Standard. My name's Isobel, I'm a product owner at DSW and I'll be talking you through this standard today. This recording is designed to give you an overview of what will happen during endpoint assessment, what to expect, when it will take place, but also how apprentices can prepare and what support is available. By the end of this, you should have a clear understanding of how the process will work and what the requirements are. And of course, if there are any questions or anything you need more information on, we'll show you where to go for additional support at the end of the recording. Today we'll be discussing what the endpoint assessment process looks like, how and when it will be delivered, what happens during the assessment itself, and we'll go into more detail about the Investment Operations Specialist Standard, how each assessment method works, and how it will be graded. What is endpoint assessment? This is what we call the series of assessments an apprentice must take to prove they're able to do the job for which they've been training. These take place once the on-programme period is complete and the apprentice is deemed ready for endpoint assessment. Endpoint assessment is focused on the apprentice proving competence in their role through the work they've done, and it forms 100% of the assessment of this apprenticeship. Assessment design and delivery. DSW create assessment materials in line with robust design principles that are recognised by Ofqual. These principles are validity, reliability and comparability, manageability and minimising bias. This means you can be assured that our assessments are appropriate for the standard, that everyone will get the same experience, that the assessments will be consistent and fair, and that everyone will have a chance to succeed. When does endpoint assessment happen? Endpoint assessment begins when the on-programme phase has been completed, required functional skills and professional qualification have been achieved, and the employer and training provider agree that the apprentice is competent. This next stage is called Gateway, and it's when the apprentice begins preparing for the endpoint assessment process. What happens during endpoint assessment? The apprentice completes the assessments detailed in the assessment plan. There is still an expectation that the apprenticeship training provider will support apprentices throughout the endpoint assessment period. This is to ensure they're familiar with what's to come and so mock exams can be completed with them. In order to pass and be deemed competent, the apprentice must pass all of the assessments. This typically happens over a period of 3 months from the point they're approved for Gateway. There are 2 assessments for the Level 4 Investment Operations Specialist Standard. The learning outcomes which are assessed in each assessment are detailed in the Learning Outcome Mapping document in the toolkit. There's a portfolio of evidence and a professional discussion, and we'll look at each assessment in a bit more detail now. Portfolio of evidence. The portfolio of evidence enables apprentices to reflect and present examples of their application of the knowledge, skills and behaviours within the standard. The portfolio will contain evidence from real work activity carried out by the apprentice. This can be gathered during the last 12 months on programme. The portfolio must be developed after Gateway. The apprentice has 2 months following Gateway in which to collate their portfolio and submit it for assessment. The evidence is to be collected from the previous 12 months on programme. Apprentices can and should begin to collate evidence as soon as they can to make compiling the portfolio in the 2 months after Gateway as easy as possible for them. With guidance from the employer and/or training provider, the apprentice will select appropriate evidence to meet the learning outcomes as detailed in the referencing table. The portfolio must include sufficient evidence which is referenced to each required learning outcome in the portfolio referencing table. The toolkit provides guidance on what type of evidence can be included in the portfolio and a steer on how to ensure that the evidence is sufficient, authentic, relevant and current. The portfolio will be completed and submitted to DSW after Gateway when the apprentice, training provider and/or employer are confident that the portfolio evidences each of the required pass criteria. In order for the apprentice to progress to the professional discussion, a minimum of 28 of the 35 learning outcomes must be met at a pass or above within the portfolio. Where more than 7 learning outcomes haven't been met, the portfolio would be graded as a fail. Context statement. When we refer to a context statement, we want to know what the apprentice has done in a specific situation, who, what, where, why and when. Build a picture behind the situation, and from there they can pull on pieces of product and performance evidence which demonstrate exactly what they've done in relation to their context statement. It's a great way for apprentices to bring all of their evidence together and give a more rounded picture of what they're capable of. They do need to make sure they corroborate what they've said in their context statement with evidence, as it is classed as anecdotal. Evidence types. We don't specify a minimum or maximum in terms of pieces of evidence which can be included in the portfolio. One piece of evidence could span several learning outcomes, and there may be some learning outcomes which require several pieces of evidence in order to meet them fully. A piece of evidence might be a single document, or it might be a folder containing a number of documents which link together. We're looking for quality rather than quantity, having the apprentices think about examples of specific situations they've been involved in which would allow them to demonstrate multiple areas of the standard using a range of evidence types. We'll go now on to different types of evidence. Types of evidence. As you can see, there's a wide range of evidence types, and this list is not exhaustive. You may find that the evidence you choose to provide is quite different to what appears here, which is fine as long as it's demonstrating the required learning outcomes. We do ask that videos and recordings are a maximum of 2 hours within the portfolio, and they will need to be time-stamped in the referencing table. Professional discussion. The professional discussion is a structured discussion between the apprentice and the independent assessor designed to establish the apprentice's understanding of the application of the knowledge, skills and behaviours of the standard. The purpose of the discussion is to explore evidence for areas of the standard that are best done face-to-face, clarify any questions that the assessment organisation has about evidence submitted in the portfolio, discuss how the apprentice has progressed in their role, what they've done and their approach to work. The professional discussion will be carried out remotely using video conferencing facilities and will last for 60 minutes. The training provider will ensure that the apprentice is given support needed to ensure they're comfortable with the technology to be used ahead of the interview. The apprentice will receive a copy of the completed portfolio referencing table ahead of the professional discussion. This will outline which of the learning outcomes have been met through the portfolio. The professional discussion tab will outline which of the learning outcomes will be picked up in the professional discussion to allow the apprentice time to prepare for the discussion. The endpoint assessor will have prepared questions and discussion points for each of the 10 areas that are going to be explored in the professional discussion. In addition, the apprentice will also be questioned about their development and approach to work. The apprentice can bring notes to the professional discussion. The portfolio and discussion will be graded synoptically by the endpoint assessor based on the standard and grading criteria. Final judgment and the decision of the overall grade for the apprenticeship will be made by the endpoint assessor following completion of the professional discussion. Scoring and grading. There are 3 levels of outcome: fail, pass and distinction. All learning outcomes must be met at pass level by a combination of portfolio and professional discussion to achieve a pass overall. The 2 assessment methods are cumulative. The overall outcomes across both portfolio and professional discussion will determine the overall grade achieved. The final grade will be confirmed within 5 working days of the professional discussion taking place. Thank you for watching. We hope this has been helpful. As always, we're happy to help if you have any questions or need any more information, so please do get in touch. You can email us at info@dswapprenticeships.co.uk or give us a call on 01302 760 008. Thank you.